Welcome back to my channel. So we are starting with dentigerous cyst, which is going to be our first topic for cysts. Okay. So synonyms for dentigerous cyst is follicular cyst. You could get a long note on to classify cysts and write a note about follicular cyst. So you have to remember that follicular cyst is dentigerous cyst. Follicle because you have it as a follicle. Also, it can arise from a follicle. So, most common developmental cyst. This is the most common developmental and the second common type of odontogenic cyst. I told you odontogenic has developmental and inflammatory. So, from developmental, this one is the most common, and from overall odontogenic, this one is the second most common. We learn about the first odontogenic residue, which is the radicular cyst later. So we are learning dentigerous cyst. 20% of all jaw cysts are dentigerous cysts. Okay, it can be associated with impacted, either the tooth is impacted like in this picture, or it is unerupted, it is not erupting, or it is embedded teeth, which is having lack of eruptive force. Embedded is into the bone, which does not have a eruptive force. Okay. And then could be also associated with complex odontomas. While learning odontomas, we had seen that they could be associated with dentigerous cysts also. That's what same. And could be also associated with supernumerary teeth. So here you see this odontomas and you see the dentigerous cysts associated with them. Okay. Now if we go to the definition of it, does it say? It is one which encloses the crown. If you see in the picture as well, I will draw for you. So it is one which encloses the crown of an unerupted tooth. So into the bone, and is attached to the neck of the tooth. So it encloses the crown of an unerupted tooth and it's attached to the neck of the tooth. In effect, it is a dilated or expanded follicle. So this is a dilated or an expanded follicle, which after removing, you see it has something fluid inside, which after removing it gets here compressed or collapsed. 10% of impacted teeth are associated with dentigerous cyst. So if you have your teeth impacted, please go and check if you have a dentigerous cyst over it. So what it is it is the one which encloses the crown of an unerupted tooth and is attached to the neck of the tooth. In fact, it's a dilated, expanded follicle. Now we are going to learn about the pathogenesis. So pathogenesis could be intrafollicular. Intrafollicular, within the follicle, originates after the crown formation. So you have the crown formation already. So there could be accumulation of fluid between the reduced enamel epithelium and the crown. Like in this picture, you have the reduced enamel epithelium and you have the crown and you have accumulation of fluid. It could be, this is intrafollicular, or it could be accumulation of fluid between the between the reduced enamel epithelium and other layer of reduced enamel epithelium. So either it is between the reduced enamel epithelium and the crown, or it is between the layers of reduced enamel epithelium. If before crown formation, so if it's before crown formation, then it could lead to OKC, or it could be dentigerous cyst with enamel hypoplasia. So if it's before crown formation, we are talking about intrafollicular. Now we come off to extrafollicular. Okay, understood, right? Extrafollicular originates initially by proliferation plus cystic transformation of the epithelial islands of connective tissue outside the dental follicle, which then envelope the tooth and forming a solitary cystic cavity around the tooth crown. So I will explain this. So you have a crown and a root. Okay. So this, it has its own follicle also. Something like this. It has no cysts, no cystic lumen. Okay, this is its own. But there are some rests in the connective tissue, okay, which proliferate to form a cystic cavity, and this comes and envelopes the tooth. So the tooth will have the cystic cavity comes in and envelopes the tooth. So the tooth is going to have the cystic cavity now. So this is what happens in extrafollicular, which originates initially by proliferation of cystic transformation of epithelial islets, the islets, serrae, rests of serrae, in connective tissue outside the dental follicle. Okay, which then envelopes the tooth. It comes and envelopes the tooth, forming a solitary cystic cavity around the tooth crown. This is what happens in extrafollicular, always involving the secondary crown tooth, very rarely in primary tooth. These things happen extrafollicular, always in the secondary, very rarely the primary. The third one is when there is a radicular cyst. Radicular cyst is something which is on the root. Radicular cyst. And the secondary teeth, when erupting, goes and gets attached to the radicular cyst, forming a dentigerous cyst on its crown. So crown of the second tooth may erupt into the radicular cyst of its primary predecessor. So there is a primary predecessor, there is a tooth. Suppose we take this as the incisor, okay, first incisor. This is A, whatever, and then you have radicular cyst. Then you have your 1 coming out, okay. You have your 1 coming out, and the 1 will go into the radicular cyst, and this one, should I draw this one bigger, will form dentigerous cyst, and this will shed off, okay. This is what happens. So crown, the secondary teeth may erupt into the radicular cyst of its primary predecessor. Very rare it is. So inflammation of the apex of primary tooth can lead to development of an inflammatory follicular cyst. So dentigerous cysts develop around an erupting tooth by accumulation of fluid between REE and crown or between layers. So same thing happens. Even with this, what happens is dentigerous cyst is developed into an erupting teeth, around an erupting teeth, and there is accumulation of fluid. Either it is between the RER and the crown, or it is in the layers of the RER. So what exactly happens here? Why do you have fluid accumulation? So pressure exerted by the potentially erupting tooth. So there is pressure exerted by the potentially erupting tooth on an impacted follicle. Okay. So the erupting tooth is here, if you see, the erupting tooth is exerting pressure on the follicle, okay, and there are some venous capillaries. So it obstructs the follicle with the pressure, obstructs this venous capillaries, okay. Venous outflow is obstructed. So this, if you have a capillary which is obstructed, what will happen is it induces serum transduction across. So serum's transduction is seen outside. Okay. So the capillary walls, venous capillaries, serum transduction. So which will increase the hydrostatic pressure of the pooling fluid. So there will be serum transduction which will increase the hydrostatic pressure of the pooling fluid. There will be around all hydrostatic pressure increase, which separates the follicle from the crown and or the layers of the RDR. So either it could come and join in here, the cyst, and it could separate the follicle from the crown or from the layers of RDR. Okay, with time the capillary permeability increases and more protein comes out, message of more quantity of protein. Okay, so what happens, I'll tell you again. So there is pressure exerted by the erupting tooth on an impacted follicle. So there are capillaries. So these capillaries are obstructed, their flow is obstructed, which will lead to serum transduction. The serum transduction will increase the hydrostatic pressure and will do separation of the layers of RER, the reduced enamel epithelium, or separation of reduced enamel epithelium from the crown. And then furthermore, with time you will see that there are proteins also coming out. So this is the pathogenic impacted follicle. You have pressure exerted by the erupting tooth on the impacted venous flow, obstruction, transduction across the basal wall, and increased hydrostatic pressure in the surrounding tissue, cystic cavity formation with the reduced enamel epithelium or between reduced enamel epithelium and the crown. So what is the hydrostatic pressure from? It is intracystic osmotic pressure, net ingress of fluid plus secondary centrifugal growth of the cyst. The intracystic osmotic pressure is net ingress of the fluid plus secondary centrifugal growth of fluid. How much the water comes plus there is a growth of the cyst. And also concomitant compensatory epithelial proliferation also occurs. So there is epithelial proliferation happening also. Now we come to the clinical features. It is age 22 to 40 years. Race white are more prone than the blacks. Predilection of male is more. Sight is mandible, more affected in maxilla. So what, hollowing out the entire ramus. Sometimes it goes and hollows out the entire ramus, extending up the coronoid process and condylar plus the cortical plate expansion, you can see. So you have displacement of the third molar to the inferior border of the mandible. So when you have such an enlargement, the impacted third molar can lead down to the inferior border of the mandible. Here, it reaches here. So teeth which are mostly affected is the maxillary canine. As you see in this picture, maxillary canine. No, this is not maxillary canine. Either it is maxillary canine or mandibular third molar or mandibular premolar or maxillary third molar. Now we see the size. From few millimeters to several centimeters, facial asymmetry could be seen because of the cortical plate expansion. Slowly enlarging lesion, it is aggressive and extreme tooth dysplasia. So the tooth can get, even the root gets resorbed and the tooth gets dysplasia. Painless unless secondary infected. It is not symptomatic, it is painless unless it is symptomatic, unless it is secondarily infected. Bilateral dentigerous cyst. If you have bilateral dentigerous cyst, then it can be associated with cleidocranial dysostosis, we have learned about it. Meroteaux Lamy syndrome, which we'll be learning about, and mucopolysaccharidosis here. So which we'll be learning about. So cleidocranial we have learned. So it is associated with this syndromes. If there is bilateral, remember this could be asked as MCQs or Viva question. Now we come to the radiographic features. It could be unilocular and occasionally multilocular. It has a soap bubble appearance and radiolucency with sclerotic border associated with an impacted tooth. So there is radiolucency with a sclerotic border in the here associated with the impacted tooth. There is again radiolucency with a sclerotic border associated with the impacted tooth. Root resorption of adjacent teeth seen in dentigerous cyst. So in dentigerous cyst you will see root resorption of the adjacent teeth. Here you can see proper root resorption of the adjacent teeth. If the pericoronal width is 5 mm, less than 5 mm, it is a normal follicle. So you only in the radiograph, if you see the pericoronal width, the width of the cyst, it's more than 5 mm, then only you will consider it as a cyst. If it's less than 5 mm, then it's a normal follicle. You don't have to remove it. Go to see, you extract it. So you don't do that. Now there are variants. There could be central. Central is this way. There could be lateral. Lateral is to the side of the crown. So it's easy. Central, the most common, lateral, and then you have the circumferential, which is surrounding the whole crown. But you have to remember, it will attach only the neck of the crown. Histopathological features, you will have very histopathological. What does a cyst have? A cyst has a lumen, it has a wall, and it has a connective tissue stroma. Right? Lumen, it has a epithelial lining and a connective tissue stroma. So lumen, epithelial lining, and the capsule, which is of connective tissues. So connective tissue wall with thin layer of stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. So there is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium. This is the lumen. You will have a connective tissue of stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium lining the lumen, which lines the lumen. Okay, connective tissue wall. An epithelium lining resembles of reduced enamel epithelium. So this epithelium lining resembles reduced enamel epithelium like cells. There is 2 to 3 cells layers flat. So these are 2 to 3 cell layer flat or cuboidal cells. The epithelium and the connective tissue interface is flat. There is no retipex, as you can see. There will be retipex only if it's infected. Okay. Epithelium connective tissue interface is flat, no retipex. Only in case of inflammatory there will be retipex. Connective tissue wall frequently quite thicker and composed of very loose. So the connective tissue wall is frequently quite thicker and composed of very loose fibrous connective tissue, sparsely collagenous myxomatous tissue. So myxomatous is mucus type tissue. You have your lumen, you have the epithelial lining, and you have the connective tissue wall. So the epithelium are 2 to 3 cell layers thick, which stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium, and there is no retipex. If there are retipex, it is inflamed. And then the connective tissue is very myxomatous type with a lot of fibers, loosely arranged fibers, sparsely collagenous, and it is quite thickened. Okay, numerous inactive islands of odontogenic cell rests could be seen in the connective tissue. This is a diagram you draw for a dentigerous cyst. So you will have stratified squamous non-keratinized 2 to 3 cell layer thick, which the basal cells will be cuboidal. The cell rest will be inactive. Cell rest you have to draw into the connective tissue wall, and you have a lumen which is clear, which has pus into it. But once you remove, you stain, there is no pus. Okay, no, sorry, not pus, sorry, fluid. If it's pus, it's abscess, it's not a cyst. Lumen is gross. So if you talk about the lumen, cystic fluid thin, watery yellow, occasionally blood tinged. So it could be watery yellow, it could be occasionally blood tinged. And the mandibular dentigerous cyst, Gaulian described it as pluripotent cyst. Pluripotent epithelium could give rise to other cells, And mucous cells were seen, respiratory epithelium it had, and sebaceous glands was there, lymphoid follicle with germinal outer, and there was metaplasia. This was what Gallen described dentigerous cyst of mandible to be. That is with respect to Gallen. Now we go to the treatment and prognosis. So what will you do? So it is a follicle. So you will have to do enucleation and curettage, tooth extraction, then you do enucleation and you do curettage. Now this dentigerous cyst, if not treated, could lead to complications such as ameloblastoma. It could be mural or luminal. Mural or luminal I have taught in the in the video of ameloblastoma, unicystic ameloblastoma. Go and read that. Then it could be squamous cell carcinoma. Luminal, it goes inside the lumen. Mural, it is go and read. Epidermoid cell carcinoma, either it's squamous cell carcinoma or epidermoid cell carcinoma. Mucoepidermoid carcinoma also it could lead to. That is it with the lecture. Thank you for your patient listening.